Well, you can see from the map there of the start of today's race as we came up on this stage, Villard-De-Lans to Serre-Chevalier, that we're going to have a very tough day for these riders, 204 kilometres in all, and this is the one when really the yellow jersey could be under threat. We've had attacks right the way since we started after 29 kilometres have been covered this morning, and right now the race is beginning to split up, and they've gone over the top of the Col de Grandon and down the other side, and we're heading up towards the big climb of the day, up toward the top of the Col du Galibier. Well, let me put you in a picture of what's been happening throughout the day so far. We're picking up some of the other riders back down the field. The great news was this morning that as we came out of the start at Villard-De-Lans on this, the 10th stage of the Tour de France, first of all, it was very cold indeed, down to 2 degrees, and it was raining, and there was some concern that further ahead there might be even a fall of snow, but it's gone much warmer now, thank goodness. But the further up in the Alps you go, and remember today we're going over the Col de Grandon, 1,924 metres above sea level. And then over the top of the Col de Telegraph, 1,566 metres above sea level. And then the Col de Galibier, 2,645 above sea level. We're looking here at Bourguignon, who was one of a party of some 19 riders that escaped after 29 kilometres had been covered. The first action of the day came after 6 kilometres when Cipollini beat Abdul-Japarov, with Ferrara in 3rd place for the first sprint of the day. There are no more time bonuses on these sprints, but some useful points in the green jersey competition. Cipollini then beating Abdul-Japarov and Ferrara for those vital points, and of course some money as well. 5,000 francs for first, 3,000 for second, and 2,000 for the 3rd place man. Let's run down this group of riders then that are away on that early part after some 29 kilometres have been covered. We're looking at them now, and I'll run them through in just a moment for you so you can jot down. They've been pulled back now. So Rolf Jarman, winner of the Amstel Gold Race, he just sat up in front of this little one. He was second in the Tour of Switzerland, which is usually a pipe opener for the Tour de France. He won a stage there, and oh, look who's coming up as well. This is a cracking race today, but he looks a bit lead-legged, doesn't he? His team car are just giving him all the encouragement they can do. Gianni Bugno, champion of the world. Looking round the hairpin bends, you can see the cars up in front of him. That's one of the great things about these zigzag climbs up. They just go steadily, steadily up, up, up all the way. And as you're doing that climbing, you can, on the zigzag parts, see the riders ahead of you. Heading then up towards the Galibier, which has been part of the Tour de France for many, many years now. It first went over the north face first went over the top in 1911. On what was then looked upon as the north face, and now they're going again to have to climb that one. Look, he's splitting yet again. Jarman, who tried to get away, is now struggling. Bourguignon, that was with him earlier on, is looking good at the moment. Bourguignon finished 29th the Tour de France last year, 25th the year before that. One of those consistent riders. He had a 4th place in the Route du Sud this year, but he's not really normally up with such elevated company. He tried to get away, he's been brought back. Jarman now beginning to struggle a little bit. Well, Delgado will sit on the wheel here of Alcala. That's what he's done all the way through, because he, a teammate of Miguel Indurain in the Banesto team, is doing a tremendous job here policing this one. He's not going to aid that breakaway group at all. Quick look then at number 43. That was Ramon Gonzalez Arrieta from the Festina team. And still your mountain climbers here. Chelly Craviola just a little bit back off the pace at the moment. Bourguignon still in there. Look at the way they're struggling. Well, in the early part of the Tour, the sprinters have been having their moments of glory. And let me tell you that Cipollini went over the top of the Col de Grandon 7 minutes and 20 seconds in arrears of the leader, Collage. And most of the big hitters, the big sprinters now, are really struggling at the back. Early on, dropped off the back were Van Slyke, Van der Leer, Thierry Marie, Jacques Durand, Wilfried Nellison, who battled for the green and the yellow jersey, was shelled out as they started the Col de Glandon. Then Peter de Klerk, Gert Jacobs, Cursipieu, Jean-Claude Robin, and after that, Capio, Cipollini and Abdul-Japarov were all blasted out of the field. So it's now a day for the mountain climbers here. Indurain still following on behind Rominger. Rancon then behind the yellow jersey. Then Stephen Roche. They've collected Yarman, who's dropped off that group at the front, and now you can see that Breukink, number 51, in the red, white and blue Dutch jersey, riding for Once, has made his way up to this group. A very good cross-section of teams here. Rominger riding for Klaas, Indurain riding for Benesto, Rancon riding for Meyer, Hampson riding for Motorola, and here back still trying to chase to get into that group is Gianni Bugno. Well, what the last time check we had, he was 1 minute down on that group up in front. You can see the snow in the background there. It has been very cold overnight, and there was some concern they might have to grit the roads. In fact, it was going to freeze, but right now the sun is coming out and beginning to warm the conditions, but they're really riding up into altitude, digging deep now. They had a day's rest yesterday, and everybody knew they got 2 tough days ahead of them, not only today, but tomorrow as well, when we got 6 hours or so of live television coverage. And Martin Early, who knows these roads well, will be joining me in the commentary box to add his insight into the riders' activities. And here comes that little train. Roche looks remarkably comfortable in there, doesn't he? Well, at this rate of knots, Roche could well be taking over as the team leader of the Carrera squad. Chiappucci nominated the team leader, but Roche right now, this morning he started in 10th place, 4 minutes 10 seconds down, and here we are over the top of the Col de Glebier. Rancon leading him over the top of that one. They're just about to pick up that leading group, and let's see now how far back. There your time, 11 seconds, then 20, 21. Let's wait for Bugno to come up. And here he is, and he's got company to Jose Ramon Uriarte, who was in that leading group for Benesto, has now been swept up. Now what's the problem? I think he's absolutely blown there. That looks to me as if he's in all sorts of trouble. And look at the way that Bugno is coming up here. But Uriarte was in that leading group after 29 kilometres, now being collected by Gianni Bugno, who's beginning to really put some sprint into this one. Look at that, it was at one time 1 minute, he's pulling it back here, going over the top. He really has cut that gap. What is it now? Some, according to my watch, 50 seconds, in fact, over the top of that climb. So he's just shaved a few 10 seconds back, and he could well be on the descent, catching up with this little group in front. And I've said it before, but I'll repeat the story, of course, that Bugno at one time was the world's worst descender. And they discovered, in fact, that he had a problem with his ear, a balance factor in his ear, and the special therapist played him Mozart at different speeds and enabled him to have some equilibrium into his eardrums, and that's improved his descending, no doubt. Well, you see this group now, they've come over the top together. Varank coming over the top now, behind this little group here. Well, they've not had too good a time so far, the Festina team, but I'm sure that Martin Early will be pleased to see how his teammates now are starting to go well. At long last then, showing up in the mountains. Well, their clock's a little bit faster than mine. They've now got 2 minutes. I'm not quite sure what's happening with our clock, because I certainly pressed mine. I've only got 1:50 coming up now, so something's gone adrift on the clock somehow. Whatever it is, this just gives you some idea of the decimation that goes on the big climbs. Fignon leading up this little group behind here, powering his way up. And there is Zuller. Zuller's still hanging on for grim death. Really hurt from that crash that he had on the stage into Verdun. So Zuller trying desperately to stay in contention, but he's come over the top of there, something like 2 minutes 20 seconds down on the leaders. So that'd be disappointment as far as he's concerned, losing more time. Look at the state of these riders here. Remember, we start this morning with 171 riders. We've seen about, 30 go through at the most, I suppose. And further back down the other side of the mountain, there'll be riders now coming over the top, up to 15 minutes down on these leading groups. And when you do things like that, what you have to do, there's going to be a percentage put against the victor's time today, and the riders then who come in late will have to stay inside that same time limit. And what always happens on the climbs when they get shelled out, they get to know what time the leaders get into the finish, and then they try to ride just inside that time without busting a gut. Judgment all the way. And braking here. Let's see. We can't quite get the back end of that group in front, and here they are. Rominger, well, 55 seconds is the gap back to braking. It seems to get yo-yoing, because at one time we had it down to 50 and then it went 55, so he's fighting all the way, but he's not making much, because look how these are riding. You see, they're taking in turns, whereas poor old braking is all on his own. Well, with only a couple of kilometres to go to the top, you can probably hear in the background the noise coming up. The motorcycles, they have little speakers on them, and they're just picking up the radio and bouncing out the information. Also the team cars round about, the officials' cars, all being kept in touch about what's happening, because right now with the riders spread all the way down the mountainside, what they also have to do, the commissaires, by the way, are watching to make sure that the riders don't get a push on the climbs up the mountain. A lot of riders shout out for a push, but there are 52 seconds confirmed back to braking, and that is totally legal. And what they also do, the helicopter, the commissaires now have a helicopter on stages like this, where they can, from the helicopter with binoculars, they actually sweep along looking for riders being pushed up the hills, and they then will penalise them if they get pushed on the mountains. He's just been hanging on, hasn't he? Round about 50 seconds all the way up. Just can't close that gap down. Well, he may do it on the descent, 27 kilometres straight down into the finish at Serre-Chevalier.
We've got the latest lead here. The lead, of course, is of the 5 that are up there in front. Breaking at 52, Rincon at 110, and Roche and Virenque at 215. Now, Roche is a very good descender. We could see some fun here.
Well, that's a lot to make up on a descent off the top, 27 kilometres to make that time up, and I'd rather think that this man's got to be the best opportunity of getting up to that leading group, and then we'll have to see who can win the stage at the end at Serre-Chevalier. Covering then 204 kilometres today on this stage 10 of the Tour de France. Yesterday was a rest day. Let me recap, if you've just switched on, that on the stage today, 29 kilometres out, we had a breakaway group of something like about 19 men. I'll recap them for you now. There were Motti, Cornelet, Eli, Punikov, Alcala, Perini, Calage, Uriarte, Gonzalez Ariata, Bourguignon, Delgado, Clavriola, Yerman and Kengialta. They, together with riders who quickly got dropped off, there were Montoya, Sorensen, Biondi, Chiesa and Le Marchand. That little group of, some 5 men began to drop off on the Col de Glandon. And over the top of that climb then, at the Col de Glandon, first place was Calage. Then behind him, Clavriola, Motte, Delgado and 10 men. Miller at 2 minutes 25 seconds. Biondi 3:15 and Peloton 4:03. There we are, helicopters at the top there. I'm not quite sure whether that's one of the cameras that we use or whether it's the man going down to make sure nobody's being pushed up the hill. But nevertheless, the group group of the riders went away to 29 kilometres, began to be absorbed on the climb up the Col de Telegraph, and Indurain launched his attack and came through here. You see the snow ahead, and this morning very chilly, just 2 degrees it was, so they'll be looking for the top to stuff the newspapers up their fronts, or maybe pick up a clear racing cape to put over the top of their jerseys to keep out the cold, because trouble with this sort of cycle racing, they're getting so hot on the climbs here. When you zoom down the other side, that cold air can cut into you. And I was talking to Thomas Wegmuller the other day. He said in the Tour of Switzerland he had just that problem. He'd had a bit of bad form earlier on, and then he rode in the Tour of Switzerland, and on the descents the cold weather got at him and he picked up bronchitis and was unable to ride the Tour de France. Rincon back here then. Last time check we had was 1 minute 10 seconds behind the leading group. Makes it look so easy, doesn't it, that some of these specialist mountain climbers. Gascoula's still hanging on a little bit at the back. Probably of this little group here, if they come in together, might be the fastest sprinter for the line, because I don't think Maker or Hampson will look upon as being sprinters. So it may be a stage victory for this Polish rider. And although the sun is out, you can see that the spectators have got their tracksuits on. It's quite a bit chilly down there. Maker beginning to put the pressure on the front. Rominger behind him, Miguel Indurain in third spot, Hampson back in fourth, and then Gascoula. Well, you can see the names, Ariartes written there, Motte written down, and those, in fact, were some of the early riders that did go away. So Fignon has now caught up with Bugno. A great ride by Laurent Fignon to get up to Bugno. That'll give him some encouragement. Bugno tried to get to this group, got desperately so near, and then in the end just didn't quite make it. Comes a little look back then as far as Rominger is concerned. They make it look so easy, don't they? Well, Breukink, not really, I suppose, built to be a mountain climber like these people we're looking at now, but he's certainly still staying in contention. Gascoula, sensibly, I think, sitting a bit behind this lot. There we are, that's where they're going. Sorry about the wow-wow on the camera, but back with Veronk. And the check we had before, he was, what, 2 minutes 15 seconds down. He had got Roche with him, but Roche is not there now. So, in fact, that might have been a mistake by the radio coming up, because he's always been riding here with the class rider. He's always been with Javier Molion. So, in fact, there might have been a slight mistake there with the numbers. This is 1:36. Roche rides 16 as such. So, sometimes it's very difficult to pick out the numbers of the riders. Although those of us can recognise some straight away by their style. And thank goodness when they're in the mountains they don't wear their crash hats, and so they're much more easy to pick up. And of course here the champion of Holland not riding in his Once colours. So 3 minutes 30 to Delgado and Motte. Chiappucci now is at 5 minutes. Bugno's group at 4. Well, this really is decimation time today in the Tour de France. And it's the specialist climbers that are doing it. One has to ask oneself, though, how much are they taking out of their legs, and can somebody come back tomorrow? Because one thing what Indurain is doing is punching time out of the number 2 man on the road at the moment, Breukink. You see how the snow now melts down across the road. Look at that, they've actually been engraving in the snow the names of some of the top favourites here. Look at the conditions on the road as the melted snow's coming down. The spectators out en masse in their anoraks, because it's been very, very cold up here. They have to come up, and many of them camp out overnight. You imagine how cold it was last night in those camper vans, and to come up this morning they had to drive out the crack of dawn, because the road closed some 3 hours before the race comes through, and sometimes up to 6 hours on the mountain climbs to stop people clogging up the roads ahead of them. So these people came out, and you can see the vans here, they've all been staying out overnight, and here all the support for this man trying to get back up there. The Dutch very often making an annual pilgrimage to come down into the Alps and watch the Tour de France go through. 1 minute 30, so he's dropping off the pace a bit now, Breukink, not quite holding the speed of this group, with Rominger beginning to put the pressure on at the front. Well, every move so far has been counted by the man in the yellow jersey. Indurain getting towards the top of this climb. Magnificent scenery. They've no time to admire it, though. Very, very famous part of the world. This climb then over the top. The Henri de Grange trophy will be there. The special award for the first man over the top will be worth 20,000 French francs. There we are, all category. That means it's beyond comprehension almost. 6.8% over those final 17.5 kilometers that they've covered on this big climb up here. Second man will get 10,000 French francs for the first place over the line. So we're talking then about £1,200 and £2,500 for first. About £2,000, £2,500 for the first place man over the line in this little group here, with the crowd now narrowing down and making it difficult for the riders to work their way through. But nevertheless, they'll be happy, I think, that they've seen off so many of the contenders for the crown. But really, although we've got 2 days in the Alps now and the big one tomorrow, when we get to stage 15 from Perpignan to Andorre, we've got some more big climbs then. In fact, there's going to be 6 climbs on that day. On the 16th stage, we've got some more big climbs as well. And the one from Tarbes to Pau, they're going over the Col de Tourmalet, the Col de Sur and the Col de l'Aubisque as well. We've got some cracking climbs this year. There were some complaints last year that the Tour de France wasn't quite tough enough. Well, they reverted now pretty well to form, although what Jean-Marie Leblanc says, the organiser of the Tour, they don't want to make it a tour which only suits the mountain goats. They don't want to make it only a tour which suits the time trials. They have to try and find a balance so that all riders will have an equal chance. And here, this man, probably one of the most all-round bike riders there are, is now showing that he's got to dig deep and get down into those talents for climbing to get up there and try and catch up that group. But he's been losing a bit more time on the final ascent of the Col de Galibier. Back up with Rominger on the front now. Tony Rominger, not had a very good Tour de France in the past. 57th in 1990, 68th in 1988, but twice winner of the Tour of Spain, which happens earlier in the season, is now here riding up shoulder to shoulder. They're getting right toward the top of the climb, and Indurain's putting the pressure on and riding away here. Look at him smiling almost and just grabbing the handlebars, and he's opened up a little bit of a gap already. Miguel Indurain then on the way up towards the climb here. Static cameras picking them up as they go through. We'll get the time clock again on the left-hand side, and we'll be able to see all the gaps down. And Brian Montgomery here with his pen is going to write them all down, because once they go off the top of here, a few will be able to regroup, but not a lot of them, because a downhill drop like a stone down the other side, 27 kilometers, virtually all downhill. You can feel the emotion of the crowd here, watching the giants yet again. The crowd here, young people seeing young bike riders, and those can remember years gone by, the day that Bartali and Coppi and Belmontes and O'Connor and all those big mountain climbers coming over this same north face of the Galibier. Henri de Grange, the founder of the Tour de France, and for many years they have this little HD, the initials of Henri de Grange, on the jersey in memory of the man whose idea it was to have this great race round France in 1903 to sell Lotto. And Rominger rushes over the top. Rominger goes for the special souvenir Henri de Grange, and he's going to take it on the line, and he does, yes, takes that 20,000 French francs. Then there's 10,000 for Miguel Indurain, and then Mahia coming over in third spot. I'm looking for the newspapers. They actually haven't been giving up at the moment. So there on the left-hand side is the time gap back to this man. Looking through this crowd for the next riders to come through, and going back down the other side then, that was the Col de Galibier. In fact, they've got Yaskoula. I didn't see him go away, and Mahia just behind him. I don't quite understand that, because certainly Rominger went over first, and then Indurain, and then Mahia. I don't believe that caption is correct, so please just bear with us at the moment, because as far as I'm concerned, it was Rominger and Indurain over the top, with Mahia in third spot. And look at this down the other side. We'll come back to that in just a moment. Well, anxious eyes on the watchers. You can see there 120, so the attempt at braking to get up to Indurain. He tried, he got within, what, 50 seconds of it. One time he was 35, then drifted back to 50, then 53, then back to 50. And now it's going to be over 1.5 minutes. He's got to really descend and drop down the other side like a stone. There's been some terrible crashes off the top of the Galibier in the pass as well, by the way. And let's hope they all get down without much incidents this time, because what in 1935 it was, the Spanish rider Capeda, he had a tremendous crash going down the other side, and the descent of the Bourg d'Oisans after crossing over the top of the Galibier, and he died, and he crashed and killed himself. That was way back some years ago, 1935 it was, but that was further on the course than here. But there we are, 2:13 the gap back to braking, so he's lost a lot of time just in those final 6 or 7 kilometers, and I think somehow, even with his superior descending or supreme descending, he's going to have a job to get up and catch up with them. So then there, Jean-Philippe Doer of the Festina team has come up to Richard Virenque, still in there as well on the top of this climb then. Number 26, Alberto Rondon. Well, Stephen Roche is just behind this little group at the moment.
And Roche is apparently almost stopped and in very bad form, so we'll see what happens when he comes through.
He certainly looked to be suffering the last time that I saw him on the road. Roche then tried so hard to stay up with the leaders. Looks like he's blown a gas tank. It's not a good day for Carrera team at all. Chiesa was with the early breakaway, as with Pulnikov, and they've got blasted out as well. So the race really yo-yoing as far as some of these riders are concerned. This is the Bugno group, and Virenque then going over in company with Mollon of the class team. Great cheers from the French to see him come through, and he really is hammering away at the top of this one. It's 3:35 down. I think he'd be pleased with that one anyway, although he's a fair way down. He's finding his climbing legs, and now we're going down the other side. Hold your breath. This is absolute knife-edge stuff, and we've gone back up to the climbers, or the people on the climb. Fignon gritting his teeth. Well, we'd had information, in fact, that he got up to the group with Bugno in it. Clavriola fighting his way over the top. Gabino Motti, well, Charlie Motti gritting his teeth here with that early break this morning, and that certainly took the stuffing out of him. He had a good climb over the climb of the Glandon when he took 3rd place over there, but now he's 4 minutes and 50 seconds down on Indurain. When they got over the Glandon, in fact, Indurain was 4 minutes behind Charlie Motti, so you can see that Indurain's knocked 8 minutes out of Charlie since the top of the Col de Glandon after 98 kilometres being covered. We now cover 177 kilometres, so in fact in 70 kilometres, Indurain has taken 8 minutes out of Charlie Motti. And they are coming over in penny numbers. We just saw Thierry Bouillon go through, and then look at this here. He's in all sorts of trouble, isn't he? Zuller just going over there with the yellow crash hat on, and the newspapers being handed up for shoving up the front. And we're down still on this descent, 27 kilometres down. Look at them clipping around the spectators here. some of the riders go out actually and practice on part of the course early in the season, and whenever they're racing in this neck of the woods, they get a chance, they go and have a look at the climbs and the descents. In fact, it has been corrected then, Col de Galibier, that Rominger was first, Indurain second, and Maika in third place. The points down the right-hand side are in the order for the King of the Mountains competition. And going into the race today, as Fignon here comes over with a race behind him. And Bugno is there, so Fignon is really helping his teammate along, but with Bugno now, the gap in fact 6:39 or 6:29, so in fact they're losing a lot of time on that last 7 or 8 kilometers of the climb. King of the Mountains this morning, the polka dot jersey being worn by Cassani with 60 points, so you can see now that on these climbs here the jersey could well change hands, because there were 30 points for the first man over the Glandon, 20 on the next climb, the Col de Telegraph, and here 40 points in all for the first man. Roche is really gamely trying, he never says die. Look at him. Roche has really ridden himself to a standstill today to try and get up there with the leaders. A game performance on his part, but it's not going to be as far as he's concerned. He's a good descender, but he's now a long way off the pace. And Carrera not having a particularly good day today, despite that early attempt by Chiesa and Pulnikov to split the field apart. Look at Roche. Well, as the riders go over here, Chiappucci heading them up, he's got Alcala with him, so Alcala there, when we're just waiting for it to go through, I saw Alcala back of it, that's he is there. So Alcala is now like 7 minutes adrift. He was up there in the morning, his chance of the Tour I think is virtually gone. The distance now 5 kilometers from the finish, and bad luck for Breaking them with that problem with the gear. Looks as if either the sprocket had gone and seized up, or the spring had gone on his gear mechanism. But a very quick change indeed from his mechanic. He would only lost about maybe 10 seconds maximum on these riders here, but they're coming down. They're certainly taking no prisoners today, these three. And Maika doing just the right thing, sitting in comfortably there, looking quite calm. You see he's got the arm warmers pushed down. What sort of red and blue look like enormous sleeves on gloves. They're not, in fact, they're the arm warmers that he slipped down. He kept those on this morning. He's a typical climber. Look how slim and thin he is. Those thin legs, big chest, light body. But Indurain in front of him, Miguel Indurain, is not a typical climber by any means. He's an all-round road rider, a big strong man indeed. And here Fignon, fearless in the descents. His character can certainly go down a bit. We're going to see an enormous change in the general classification at the end of today, because looking down the list at the moment, riders that were in contention, Museo this morning 3 minutes 2 seconds down, has been blasted out the back. Lubio, we've seen him trying to stay up there with Zuller. Roche struggling, he was in 10th place this morning. Chiappucci really struggling, he was 14th this morning, 5 minutes 7 seconds down on Indurain. Well, he's lost a lot more now, so we've got the three riders here hitting up towards the next kilometre to go. So Miguel Indurain on the front, really rolling this one through. Tactical help from Eni Kuiper to his team man here, Maika, who's still doing just the right thing, sitting in there. Never gone on the front. Here we go. More information for him. Yeah, I think he's just saying sit there, sit there. Well, you can see in the distance the peaks. They've got that lot ahead of them tomorrow on the next very, very tough stage in the Tour. 2 days in quick succession. They had a day's rest yesterday. My goodness, they needed it after a very, very fast start to the Tour de France. Here with 2 kilometers to go for the end of this stage today, covering the total distance from the start at Villard-De-Lans to Serre-Chevalier of 204 kilometers. Tomorrow they're going to have to cover 180 kilometres, a shorter day tomorrow, but they've got 2 first category climbs and a hawk category, that's beyond comprehension type climb up the Restefond. That's a 2,800 metre climb before they finish all the way uphill to the Isola. And that final climb, in fact, they do 20 kilometres straight uphill. So really one could say that by the time we get to the end of tomorrow's stage, the die might be cast in the Tour de France for 1993. But believe you me, you could never say it's over and done with. Now 5 Ks to go. They went under the 2, so he's 3 kilometres back. That means that Breuking's probably at least 3 minutes in arrears now. So I can't see any chance of him catching up.
You'll have to check the road book. I think we're almost an hour ahead of the average time that we had during for the day.
Yes, I know. It was down here.
Amazing.
Yeah, up to 33 kilometres per hour. 4:15 they were due to finish. So in fact, we're well ahead of the speed that was expected on today's stage. A tremendously fast day. I think what they were expecting was early on everybody would wait until they got to the first climb, but that escaping group really hammered along. Well, Indurain already has established one of the fastest averages in the Tour de France when I think it was last year was the fastest average speed, and we'll have to check this one for you tomorrow to let you know what sort of average speed these riders are doing. But they're coming in now towards the finish. Let's watch this one to see if Maika, who's been really sheltered on the descent, has got anything left when it comes to the sprint. Can Rominger get behind Indurain? Indurain, a very big, powerful man indeed on this run in here, probably could well be said to have the edge. Maika's going to be the very difficult man. They're swinging now right in towards the finish. They've got then just those last few hundred meters to go. Rominger takes the lead. Rominger takes the lead of Maika. Rominger on the front then, stamping out the pedals. Indurain back behind in 50 meters here. Rominger gets the stage. Maika in second place. Indurain is quite happy to come in third. He's got what he wanted. He's punched a great hole in the opposition. He's seen off Breaking to his nearest competitor. This is the man who started in second place this morning, and right now he's really going to be losing time on Indurain, who's home and dry out on what looks to me like a record stage, because it's very difficult for us to know the average that one would expect on a mountain stage like this, because every mountain stage is so different. And now Breaking them having to fight his way back up here. That looks like Rincon, who was with him earlier on today, and now he's going to pick him back up again. That problem that he had as Jaskula and Hamston dropped on the descent. They just lost contact on the top of the climb, and then on the descent, the way Indurain came down, opening up quite a considerable distance. So for Miguel Indurain, third place today, but the satisfaction of knowing he's really punched holes in a lot of his opponent's time. But Jaskula then finishing 1:12 down. Breaking, well, looking at the general classification this morning, Breaking this morning 1:35, Jaskula 3:03 down. So in fact there was what's that, a 1.5 minute gap or so between Jaskula and Breaking. So Jaskula can well move up the classification, this lad today, because Jaskula then, who's just come in at 1:12 down. Let's look at the way that Rominger took the stage, as Rominger happily takes the stage victory. He's helped himself to some time over the rest of the components too. Breaking, who started out in second place this morning, 1:35 down on Indurain. As far as I'm concerned, I think now that Jaskula has moved up a little bit there, because between Jaskula and Indurain this morning there was Brunel, Bunyo, Reis and Museo, and young Maika was also there at 3:08. So in fact Maika might have moved up into second place now.
Maika must be second place, yep. and Jaskula third, yep, at the moment, yeah.
So that's a good ride then as far as the Colombian is concerned. So with Indurain, a rough check on the general classification would show Indurain, Maika, Jaskula, and still desperately trying to limit his losses after having that trouble with the gear mech, deciding to go on the blink on the way down. Breaking coming in here now will be very disappointed, I think, with that problem. He fought to stay in contention, and he's still desperately keen to stay close because, well, what with tomorrow's hilly stage and then the big mountainous Pyrenees yet to come, you never know, people can lose, as we've seen today, minutes in the mountains. Pucci is probably the man who's going to lose the greatest amount today, and that could be say bye-bye to his challenge for the top. Breaking then, still trying to look for a podium place in Paris at 3:31. Well, this is a group, we've seen them further up on the top of the mountains there. Ramon Gonzalez, Arrieta. Together then with Laurent-Pillon, Bugnot, Fignon up in front. Well, they're a long way back at the moment, aren't they? So Bugnot, again, desperately looking for a podium place in Paris, can find himself in all sorts of trouble. The stimulating round of applause here. Fignon trying to sprint away here. Kengialta with him, who's ridden a very good race today. Away with the early leaders. Feronc's fought his way back up. He was not in with the early leaders, but he's fought himself all the way through this. Very difficult finish today as far as these riders are concerned. Moyon from the class team also in there. Looks a bit like Montoya, I think, from Amaya, but I'll have to wait for confirmation on that one. They're 4:34 down. Charlie Motte then, digging deep, taking with him Delgado. Claviola just behind as well. Charlie Motte, I think he'll be pleased with today's performance, and he's looking for a stage victory in the Tour this year. He didn't get it today, but I think that Charlie's shown that he's on the way back. He's going to be the best placed rider from the Histor Nova Mail team. I use both names, by the way, because in the cars that follow behind, they've got Histor on one car, Nova Mail on the other car, because Histor is a paint company, but in France they trade on the Nova Mail name, and they're also co-sponsored by Laser, so to keep things nice and even, they've got two team cars. They've got the Histor name on one and the Nova Mail name on the other one. So I suppose keeps everybody happy, the Belgians and the French.
Unless something's really going to surprise us here, we've got Indurain first, Mejia second at 380, Jaskula third at 442, Brokink fourth at 506, and Rominger fifth at 544.
Well, thank you, Brian. We'll wait for the roll the credits later on. Seems to be the position because there's nobody coming in later on that's likely to really upset that situation. Reis has ridden, Bjorn Reis has ridden a very good ride today as Rominger punches the air yet again, and confirmation of the positions of Hampson and Jaskula. Their time checked there, 1:13. Well, Bouillon taking the line in just 6 minutes and 3 seconds. Again, one of those early escapers after 29 kilometres. Surprising how some stood the pace and some of them got absolutely blasted out. So I'm just looking, I have got confirmation of the positions over the telegraph. It was Claviola had Delgado, Bourguignon we just saw finishing, Kengialta in fourth place. That was the telegraph climb. And here then, Zuller still trying to limit his losses, but see the patches on his knees because of his crash, and he really suffered today. He rode himself out to a standstill in the time trial, but despite the care and attention then of his soigneur, unfortunately then Zuller looks like he's going to be struggling to stay in the top 10 in the Tour this year, but we've still got some big climbs yet to come. Bjorn Reis having one of his best Tour de France's so far, coming in here. Reis, who had the polka dot jersey, winner of a stage this year in the Tour, and that stage which he won, stage 7, when he was with that group including 3 of the Motorola team, and Shandy took second place ahead of Mazzeo. Fignon bringing in that little group with also in there Rondon and Bugnot, the 3 Gatorade riders coming in close together. Well, there are team prizes at stake as well, and we've been seeing people like Novamel and GB fighting for the team awards in the past, Aristier likewise, but now I think it's going to start changing as the mountain specialists punch minutes between the rest of the competitors for the team award. There are 5:28 up on the clock at the moment, so tremendous finish today. There we are. That's your general classification, and we've got it more or less right down here, Brian. That's the order we did get, didn't you? Thank you for that. Indurain ahead of Maïcha, Jaskula, Breukink and Rominger. You saw it on your screens there as Yellow Nidam, heck, we're right back up with Cipollini here, and this is on the top of the Col de la Galibier. They've still got 27 kilometers of downhill racing to do. Still something like about, what, nearly half an hour will have passed since Indurain went over the top of this climb. Absolutely amazing. Cipollini in the green jersey. They've got to stay within the time limits today. And look here, they're stopping. That looked to me like Jackie Durand, the champion of France, has stopped to put a proper track top on. They really are, and somebody, I think he must have had a problem here to get a push like that, because you're not allowed to do it officially, but he must have had a little bit of a problem on the climb. You can see the official car behind him, and so a little bit of push just to go. I'm going to quickly check over here as Lamprey team, Letty going through here, Lietti for Lamprey with Abdul-Jabbarov. So this is really a terrible day as far as the mountain climbers are concerned. The damage they're doing to the bigger men at the back. Sensibly putting his crash out on here for the descent, because I said there's some water on the way down, and the ceremony here is going on while still 27 kilometers away. Riders are groveling over the top of the climb. Just shows how Rominger, Indurain and Maïcha, together with Hamston and Jaskula, absolutely decimated the field, because they're here, they've had a chance to sponge down, get a drink, and there's riders still on their way up the Galibier, over 30 odd kilometers away. What a big day we've had here. Certainly, so Chiappucci's come in with more than 8 minutes deficit. 8 minutes deficit, Chiappucci behind Indurain, so that really must have put the lid on his chances then of any success in the Tour this year. Telecom riders coming in with the Chazal riders likewise. Well, they're going to go on dribbling in, these riders, way after the top men have gone away to their hotel. We're looking at Udo Bolts for Telecom, just coming in there. Indurain, well, what can you say about this man? He absolutely called him a robot in the Giro d'Italia this year, the way in which he just steadily demolished the opposition. Well, he's done it again today. He's hauled his big frame over the first true day in the mountains, and not only has he kept that yellow jersey, he's outdistanced himself again from all his major competitors. Even though Rominger came in with him and Maïcha, they had started the day down on general classification, and these lovely ladies, I don't think I've seen those hats before, but having to hang on to them now as he's doing terrible things with the flowers. Miguel Indurain then in the yellow jersey on this, the first mountain stage of the 1993 Tour de France, demolished the opposition, rode his way up to that early breakaway of some 14 men, and has now really in the yellow jersey thrown down, I think, the gauntlet to everybody else. Well, he got married this year, and over in December. I wonder when the first of the infants will come along. He comes from quite a big family, by the way, and that is confirmation of the times, which we just have a little look down at what we've got here. 4:16 for Jaskula, 5:7 for Breukink. So the yellow jersey here, the very nice podium done in yellow, because that happens to be the colour for the... Hello! Waving to us. More riders coming in. Yes, you're telling me there are. There's a hell of a lot of riders still to come in. So let's have a little look at the coefficient. 12 minutes, the clock down there. And we'll try and work out quickly for you. What was the victor's time, Brian? Did we write it down? There it is, 5:28.52. So we'll do a bit of arithmetic then to see how long they've got to get it inside the classification. Because the ride today onto the 10th stage of the race, we see Rominger again in slow motion. This is what they call a third. Yes, it's number 3 on the classifications of the delays at the arrival. So they've got on item 3 here, that is a coefficient of 3. They've got to be here. They have an average speed, by the way, of the coefficient, and so they've got 15% if the average speed is 35 kilometers or more in average speeds. 15% if it's 35 kilometres. It certainly was above 35, I think, so about 15% will be the time according to my coefficient here for the one of great difficulty. So 15% of 5:28.52. Ryan with his calculator here whacking this one out for me. We'll keep our fingers crossed to see if we get our sums right here, but it just gives you some idea what they've got to do to stay in contention. Of course, there will always be the sub-stories. So 15% then of the time. Well, those are mountains that have caused a disaster. We've got more mountains coming up tomorrow on stage 11 then, when they go the Col d'Isard, the Col de Var, the Col de la Bonnette, Restefond, and up the mountain of Isola, that final climb 2,000 meters above sea level, and they actually go up a mountain like that. And you can see in the distance there the roads. It's a wonderful part of France, the Alps here, best known of course for the ski resorts and the people who come in the winter to go skiing, and these roads virtually closed sometimes when they have the big storms. But now Rominger being interviewed for the television. Well, this is what you have to do when you battle your bicycle. You have to then put up with all the interviews, and certainly Rominger, a stage victory in the Tour. He's going to be pleased with that one. Looking back, he hasn't won a stage in the Tour of France before. He's won a stage in the Tour of Italy in 1988. Tour of Spain, he won 3 stages this year when he came out overall victor. He won a stage when he won the Tour of Spain last year as well, did Tony Rominger. Winner, of course, the Grand Prix of Lombardy, which we covered on Eurosport last year when he did that great lone breakaway under very difficult conditions indeed. So winner also of the Tour of the Basque Country as well. So we'll have to see what damage it can do to Indurain in the future. Eurosport coming to Tour de France. Be with us again tomorrow.